Good morning, bonjour. Thank you for being here. My name is Adam Lynes-Ford. I'm a co-founder of My Climate Plan and a recruit volunteer firefighter in my home community. I want to start by acknowledging that we're gathered here today on unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and we are grateful to be here, and we're also here with some urgency. This summer, our country was on fire. From St. John's to Swan Hills to Snow Lake, Canadians have lived through another record-breaking season and experienced fires that move faster, that burn hotter, and that last longer. Wildfire is changing because our climate is changing. Hotter, drier conditions are driving longer seasons and more extreme behavior, and communities across Canada are paying the price. We're paying the price in destroyed homes, displaced communities, in summer days choked with smoke, and we're paying the price in billions of dollars in damages. And yet, through it all, people keep showing up for each other. Firefighters risk their lives on the line. Indigenous crews use generations of knowledge to protect communities and the land. Neighbors help neighbors through nights of fear and days surrounded by fire. And this is why we are here today, to ask Ottawa to meet Canada's wildfire challenge with us in that same spirit. Because the truth is, our wildfire system was built for a different era. The system and the people that hold it together are being pushed to their limits. We need federal leadership that matches the scale of the problem to close the gaps that are leaving us all vulnerable. We're calling for three things. First, we're asking the government to double federal wildfire training and equipment funding to get those necessary resources to frontline communities right away. Second, we're calling for sustained, year-round federal leadership in wildfire readiness and response, working with provinces, territories, and First Nations to strengthen coordination and capacity. And third, we need to tackle the root cause of these worsening fires by investing in clean Canadian power that cuts pollution, that's driving longer, hotter seasons. Because it's not only about putting out fires, it's also about preventing the next ones. Today, we're delivering thousands of petitions from Canadians with a simple, urgent message. Don't let Canada burn. Back our firefighters. Step up a new, sustained role for federal leadership in wildfire, defense, and preparedness, and build Canadian clean power. I'm joined today by 6 people with first-hand experience of wildfires. Each has a story to tell. And to start, I would like to invite Jenny Saulnier and Therese Greenwood.
My name is Jennifer Saulnier. I live in Hammonds Plains, Nova Scotia. Today, I brought one of my son's hockey medals and a partially melted collector coin given to him by his grandparents. These are 2 of the items I have from my son's first 15 years of his life. In May 2023, my home was destroyed in the Tantalum wildfires. It tore through my community with a speed and force I could have never imagined. More than 16,000 members of my community were evacuated that day. Alone with my dog, I unexpectedly fled for my life, trapped in my subdivision with flames closing in. I was sitting in standstill traffic in my subdivision when my house alarm sent me notifications. Window break detected. Directly following smoke detected and fire detected. This was not even 5 minutes after narrowly escaping from my driveway from the flames that my house burned down. That experience, being in what felt like a living nightmare, losing everything while trying to survive and escape, will stay with me forever, as it will for so many other people. Like many Canadians, I thought climate change was something that would affect future generations. I know the impacts of climate change are here. I lived through it, and we're not ready. Our forests are hotter and drier. The fires are faster, more intense, and more unpredictable than ever before. Every year, wildfire fighters tell us the same thing. They are not ready either. They need more crew, more equipment, and more support to defend our communities. These are people like Harold, Chad, and Elias here with me today who risk their lives to protect ours. It's time we gave them the tools, training, recognition, and mental health supports that they deserve. In Nova Scotia, we are no more prepared today than we were 2 years ago. We keep talking about what needs to change, but we aren't being heard. That silence and that inaction, it's shameful. Canadians deserve better. No one should have to experience what my family and thousands of others have endured. We need to act to protect our communities now and to tackle the root causes of these supercharged wildfires. That means investing in the people and the systems that defend us, and in clean Canadian energy projects that can help prevent these disasters in the first place. The rise of wildfires is a direct consequence of climate change. As the federal government decides which national building projects to back, I urge you, invest in clean energy. In Atlantic Canada, we have incredible opportunities to lead. Developing offshore wind, creating good jobs, and building the kind of safe, secure future that our kids deserve. We owe it to them to make sure that no one else loses everything before we finally decide to act. Thank you. I'd like to invite Theresa now to share with you.
Good morning. I'm Therese Greenwood, and this is my lucky pen. It's one of the only things that I took with me after the Fort McMurray wildfire of 2016. And I just had a feeling I might need it, but I didn't think that almost 10 years after the Fort McMurray wildfire, I would still be writing about what it's like to evacuate your home. But climate change actually means things have gotten worse in the last 10 years. Communities are still being evacuated, homes are still being destroyed, and now lives are being lost. The evacuation alerts start earlier every year. In Fort McMurray, we pack go bags, we check our insurance policies, and we pray for rain. That was the story I was going to tell you. But on Sunday, I was staying near Sharbot Lake when an insanely strong wind blew in, and I thought, oh, thank goodness there's no fire. And then I heard a siren. And I looked out to see smoke billowing in from 500 meters away on an island. I put on my running shoes, I turned my car around so it faced outward so I could make a quick getaway, and then I tossed my go bag in the trunk. I could see the volunteer fire department launching boats. On the island, from the island, I could hear propane tanks exploding, and residents were hauling buckets of water from the shore. The firefighters kept coming, but on the island, 8 buildings were burned in less time than it takes to watch a movie. And at the exact same time that this was happening, firefighters in a completely different township, a little bit farther north, were battling a wildfire started by one downed power line. So I had just traveled more than 4,000 kilometers from northern Alberta to find myself between 2 wildfires within an hour's drive of Ottawa. And one of these new evacuees described it well. It was the most terrifying night of your life, and you are counting on these firefighters. You know they're professionals, and you know you have to trust them. And I agree with her. I do trust them. And the only thing I can do to help them is to use my lucky pen. And I write and tell my story to decision makers and the media about the need for increased federal support for a national problem. Thank you for listening. And I would like to call forward Chad and Harold to share their stories.
Thank you. Good morning, bonjour. My name is Harold Larson. I fought wildfires for more than 20 years, and I had the privilege of leading hundreds of firefighters. Over my 2 decades of service, I saw wildfires change, burning hotter, faster, and more destructive every year. On the fire line, I also saw our firefighting force burn away too. Most wildland firefighters don't come back after a season or two. Veterans are scattered, inexperienced firefighters are asked to lead rookies. Deaths that were once rare are becoming disturbingly common. The fact is, our system was built for force before climate change. Provinces run their own agencies, many First Nations run their own crews. When one of those runs out of capacity, we shuffle crews and aircraft across borders and even bring in help from overseas. It helps, but when everyone is burning at once, there's no cavalry left to send. Gear grants arrive, but without year-round coordinators and maintained equipment, communities stay exposed. The federal government helps coordinate in a crisis, but we need national leadership before that crisis, so people and equipment are ready, positioned, and talking to each other when the wind shifts. I'm not here to point fingers or ask Ottawa to take over. I'm asking for a partnership at a scale that matches the fires we're seeing, a sustained federal role, working with First Nations, provinces, territories, so the system shows up before the flames do. 3 things. First, refund and expand the federal programs for equipment and training. Second, recognize wildland firefighters as first responders and build a professional year-round workforce. And third, put federal muscle behind year-round wildfire readiness, support Indigenous communities' land stewardship, keep assets serviceable, build surge capacity and risk-based pre-positioning, and strengthen early detection. And while they do that, build a clean Canadian power that helps keep summers from getting deadlier in the long run. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chad Thomas. I'm from the Teltan First Nation in northern British Columbia. I've been in emergency management for over 20 years, and I'm now an emergency management specialist. I fought fire all across Canada, the lower 48, and Australia, training hundreds of firefighters in the process. And the thing that I specialize mostly is Indigenous emergency management. So I work in rural First Nation communities, and the reason why I made that switch from working in more populated areas where firefighting forces are bigger is that those are the most disenfranchised groups of people that we have out there. And my goal is to work and train and develop and equip and get the experience for Indigenous first responders so they can get out there and protect their traditional territory. We need help to access these programs, and we need help to get more funding out there so we can create a more support system for these people from a regional base component. I believe Indigenous emergency management is key in dealing with the issues of climate change, as Indigenous people have been adapting to the climate for thousands of years. And I would like to bring up that there are many First Nation emergency management organizations across the country, and I think we should work on more of a national approach to create an exchange system so First Nation Indigenous emergency management personnel can get out there and showcase their talents across the country and help out other people that are going through hard times. We have people that are not getting the support that they need in these rural areas, and that's a big issue. And the only way to fix that is by getting them the equipment and the training that they need so they can get out there and work on the emergencies that are out there. And we need to create a way for them to be supported on an ongoing basis. I'd like to bring up Rosalie to speak here now. Thank you.
White Haskell Halti Pisnak Sel in Chai Squeeze Isquako Tipalat is Sasset I'm Rosalie Yazzie. I'm a Silk Okanagan woman, and I'm happy to be here today to share the unfortunate story of having to evacuate West Kelowna in 2022. I'm also the mother of an Indigenous wildfire fighter, and from a Silk perspective, I live in the greater area of Kelowna, British Columbia, which is on the front lines of climate change, and it threatens our very lifeblood of our territory. The warming waters endanger our sacred salmon, whose return is vital to our people. The health of the land and the water and the salmon are interconnected with our cultural survival, and we must protect these relationships for future generations. One of the things that we've been doing at home is working hard to reestablish cultural lifelines, and having to do that requires stewardship of both lands and waters. And in the Okanagan, it being Canada's most desert-like area, we see, what used to be an odd occurrence, such as a fire, almost becoming everyday. Something that happens on a normal basis. You wake up and there's 2 or 3 fires burning on, right next to your city, which is incredibly scary given, the coverage that happened a few years ago where the city of West Kelowna started to burn and we lost over at least 10,000 structures. I think it's more around 30,000. But then the fire actually traveled across Okanagan Lake about 2.5 kilometers and set the city of Kelowna on fire as well, where we saw a lot of infrastructure burn, including the University of British Columbia at Kelowna. And unfortunately, what we're seeing happening now in the Okanagan is going to be happening all across this country if something isn't done, to address the climate crisis that we're currently living in. You've heard from my colleagues today that they require the resources as well as the training and some type of national plan to be able to protect our territories and our communities. All Canadians are affected by this, and I urge you, as a resident of the Okanagan Basin, as well as a member of the Silk Okanagan Nation, that this isn't a one-off. This is the new norm. And so I urge you to please provide the resources that these colleagues and these professionals are reaching out to. I appreciate your time. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Adam.
We'll be meeting with members of Parliament and staff over the next 2 days on the Hill, and we're looking forward to those conversations. Take any questions if there are any.
Do you have any meetings with the emergency management minister planned?
We're going to be speaking with her staff, and we're working with them to see if we can find time in person while we're here in the next couple of days.
So who are you meeting as far as parliamentarians and kind of like staff of which MPs, I guess?
So we're meeting with multiple MPs within the Liberal caucus. So MP Hanley, MP Wheeler. We're going to meet with Minister DeBrusen, and we had to reschedule that to a virtual meeting later in the week. And then we're meeting with members of the opposition, Greens, NDP, and Conservatives.
Earlier, you guys had called for to refund and expand federal programs for equipment and training. Did the funding run out, or did it get cut? I don't know the context behind the refunding part.
Yes, NRCan has a equipment fund and a training fund. That's both 5-year funds. They are fully allocated at this point, about halfway through that time period. And so what we're asking for is to re-up that amount. So that's about $284 million.
So this would have been, quick maths, if on a 5-year timeline, would have been out in budget 2020?
That's right.
Okay, sounds good. There's one other thing. So you guys mentioned this in the press release, but didn't come up in this press conference specifically. But with regards to the nation-building projects that Canada's, going to select and go through the Building Canada Act process. So that act doesn't actually have criteria the federal government has to meet in terms of determining which projects to select. There's criteria listed in the act that it can consider, but it's not actually bound by anything. And Ottawa has decided earlier this month that it won't actually put a definition under the Act as to what constitutes a national interest. In your view, should the government have more defined terminology for what it considers national interest and a more binding structure for the projects that, or the considerations that it's making when it selects projects?
Our view is that the federal government has committed to backing large projects with federal dollars and federal coordination muscle. We know those decisions are being made right now. And what we're saying is, let's place our bets on those projects that are going to get cheap Canadian power to Canadians as our demand goes up, as well as avoid doubling down on the warming pollution that is exacerbating the situation in our forests and wildfire. The definition of what a nation building project is and how that is decided is less of our concern, but rather what projects are we going to decide to champion with consideration of the wildfire crisis that we are already living.
I guess just lastly, going into your meeting with Minister DeBrusen, what's the key messaging, obviously, because you guys have quite a laundry list of asks, but as far as going into that particular meeting with her?
For Minister DeBrusen, what we want to see is a prioritization of building out the east-west electricity grid powered by renewables. This government has committed to supporting the build-out of that grid. That's fantastic. We want to see that progress quickly, and we want to see the federal government play a proactive role in bringing together the different parties that are at the table to build out the parts of that transmission system that we need urgently.
For those joining online, if you have a question, please use the raise hand function. Pour les journalistes qui se sont joints en ligne, si vous avez une question, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la fonction main levée. Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.
Thank you.